Hi, Joel. I'm so
Yeah,
glad you joined me. Thank you so much.
my absolute pleasure. Thanks for setting this up and helping me share a bit of my story.
Well, I wanted to do that, and subscribers will probably be wondering why on earth I've got you on to do an interview. And I did mention it in one of the posts that I put out to, actually, one of the reports I put out to subscribers a few months ago now, where this report came out, and I said, I haven't done anything, I haven't written anything for you because this tower event had kind of happened, and I had like a picture of the tarot card tower, which is, everything suddenly a bolt of lightning comes out the blue, everything
Hmm.
collapses around you,
Hmm.
the floor is swept out, and you have to deal with something that is horrific and unexpected.
Yes.
And that was that a very close connection of mine had been diagnosed with brain meningioma. And this was somebody that was extremely fit, very
Hmm.
active. And the
Hmm.
diagnosis came out the blue after having a few headaches and going and getting them checked out and being told, we'll just do an MRI to make sure that everything's all right.
Yep.
To 9 days later, being in hospital to have really what was a giant meningioma, really big
Hmm. Wow.
tumor removed. And it was really hard for me to cope with it at the time. And I found that my way of coping with it, with the unknowing of what that was going to happen and how he was going to come out of the operation, was to go onto YouTube and start watching YouTube videos. And it was a bunch of realizations came in at that time. One was the man that went into this operation isn't going to be the man that comes out. It's going to
Hmm.
be, it's actually going to change his life. And I didn't think that it would. So
Hmm.
there was actually a grief for something that was going to be lost. And then I came across a community of people that had been through it and were not only extremely brave, but had actually come out of something to be, what can I say, almost like an upgraded spiritual soul, that were incredibly inspiring people. And you were one of those people.
Oh, wow.
Your
Thank you.
your content was some of the earliest content that I came across that was talking about some of the terrible fatigue issues that happen
Hmm.
when you have brain trauma.
Hmm.
And why your story resonated with me at that time was that you also are a very fit man,
Hmm.
has taken fitness seriously, probably for most of your life, it was your career. So I wanted you've been really kind in helping me and helping my friend with who's going through this. And I think you're quite an inspiring individual, Joel. And I'm
Thank
really
you.
honored that you're with me to tell everybody about your story, but also to let me dive into a few things,
Yeah, of course. That's
uh,
fine.
and ask a few questions.
And that's how
Maybe
I thought.
on a bit more personal than the content I usually do. So, first of all, let's go back to the beginning. And do you want to just tell the story of who were you before
Yeah,
this
for
happened?
sure. So I've grown up. I've been a pretty good footballer, so soccer player for any Australian viewers, my whole life. Fit, healthy, got to the end of high school, didn't really know what I wanted to do. My mum nudged me towards health and fitness, so I got a diploma, and then I became a personal trainer. So movement, fitness, and wellness became my life. I progressed from working down the beach in Bondi, just training a few clients. Eventually got into management, and then my entrepreneurial side took over and started running retreats, fundraisers, community boot camps, all this kind of stuff with a few colleagues. And then yeah, back in 2013, I was out running with a client. Beautiful day, and then I just got this overwhelming dizziness, and I couldn't stand up. So we cancelled the session and just drove home. And I spent 2 years just like jumping from like GP to specialist to naturopath, not knowing what was going on. I was dizzy all day, every day. It's similar to when you stand up really quickly and you get that head rush. I was like that all day long. It was horrible. So it really affected my social life, my I guess my partner at the time, just everything because I couldn't plan ahead because I didn't know if I was going to be too dizzy. Um, so I kept jumping from naturopaths, psychologists, GPs, everyone just trying to figure out what this dizziness was. And then very similar to your friend, it resonated with me. I just went for an MRI of the brain just in case. And then, yeah, bang, like 2 days later, the ear, nose, and throat specialist that they sent for the MRI called me quite hurriedly, and he's like, "You need to come and see me." I'm like, "Is everything okay? Is it serious?" He's like, "Look, we found something on your MRI that shouldn't be there." Um, which obviously isn't what you want to hear, but yeah, I went and saw him, and then I've walked in, and all the MRIs are on the wall, and there's my brain with this big white thing. It was horrible. And I was, without being a pity party, I went there alone. I was doing this all alone. My family didn't even know yet. So um, leaving his office and then having to go into the car and call my dad, that sucked. Because I never want to put worry on my parents, my family, my loved ones. So yeah, it was quite surreal. It was very movie like. Even like all the lights were like yellow and flickery. Like it was a really weird time. But it was funny. I never let the little voice in my head ever say to me, "This is it. You're gonna die. This is really dangerous." Like I always kept the positive, I guess, subconscious. And I'm not very woo woo, and I don't know if that stuff helps. But I've never ever in my brain said, "This is serious. This is gonna be really really nasty." And I'm still here, nearly 5 years later. So yeah, I'll celebrate that for sure. And yeah, it really resonated what you said about your friend. Is we got the MRI just to check, just in case, and then boom, life changes. And then it was quite ironic because the ear, nose, and throat specialist who ordered the MRI, he was actually 2 flights down from a brain surgeon. So he organized for me to go up there and see the brain surgeon. The brain surgeon goes, "Look, Joel, look, it's in a really difficult place to operate. So I can't go in there and biopsy a little bit of it to see what it is. All I can tell you is it looks nasty." And I'm just sitting there going, "Oh my God." And by this stage, I got my parents involved, and they were like being brave, but also internally freaking out. And he's like, "Look, let's just leave it and see what happens." And in my head, like I'm an anxious kind of guy as it is, I'm like, "No, that's not a good enough resolution." It was making me even more anxious on a daily. So I was basically venting to another client, and she's like, "Why don't you go see Charlie Teo? He's quite, famous for operating on these hard to remove tumors." And I sent my my scans were on a CD at the time, so I sent my CD to him, like it was like an audition. And I got a call a few days later saying, "Hey Joel, Charlie would like to see you," which was good and bad because in my head I'm like, "Yay, I'm going to get a second opinion," but I'm also like, "Oh no, I'm bad enough to see Charlie Teo." So I went and saw him. He goes, "Look, mate, it's in a really gnarly spot. If I cut in, it's going to throw you out of whack. I know you're a personal trainer and movement is your entire life and your livelihood." He goes, "Let's just start monitoring it with 3 monthly and 6 monthly MRIs. Let's just see what happens." And then fast forward from 2015 to 2020, we did an MRI and it grew. And he's like, "Look, mate, we have to get rid of this. Otherwise, your heart and lungs will stop and you'll die." So that was a pretty easy decision. He warned me, he goes, "Look, your balance, your coordination, your swallow, your eyesight is going to be severely affected. You're not going to be the same guy you were, but you will be alive." And like he fully explained the risks and the side effects. I'm like, "Look, we have to do it." Um, and yeah, that was March 11, 2020. And it was hectic. And I guess if you want to go into the side effects, like I literally couldn't stand up for a month. Like my legs wouldn't work. Like my brain was not connecting to my legs. It took me 3 months to learn to walk again. I
Mm.
still struggle to walk. Like even to this day, like I've got a 13-month, 14-month-old son. I always push the pram because it's like a walking frame. And then getting up and down staircases is challenging. Like my left foot, because it's so uncoordinated, doesn't cooperate with my right foot. So yeah, walking's really, really out of whack. And then the weirdest symptom is losing your swallow. So like trying to explain to people you can't swallow anything. They're like, even me, I'm like, "Oh, whatever, that's just it is what it is." Not being able to swallow is the most incredibly bizarre feeling. It's like you've got a brick wall in the back of your throat and your brain can't tell your throat to get food or drink or even saliva to go down your esophagus correctly. So that's been one of the major challenges. Like, I nearly choked to death 3 times because food couldn't go down and wouldn't come back. It was horrible without getting too gross. Um, yeah, it's just been a really, really bizarre and challenging journey, but it's so good that I'm alive and still here. And like, I've now progressed in my career. Thank goodness for that. I've now got an amazing fiance. I've got a son. Like, I'm very, 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 very lucky. And I could have died 4 years ago. And for whatever reason, my brain chemicals default to positive, and that's why I want to share my story, because there are thousands of other people in my situation whose brain chemicals default to negative, and they don't want to talk about it. They don't like where they're at. They're in a dark place, and I'm here to show them that with a bit of positivity and a bit of hard working and rehab, you can improve, and you're not alone. And that's why I created my YouTube channel, and my Instagram page is solely dedicated to brain trauma and brain tumor survivors, I guess. And I know that was a bit of a rant, but that's me.
Because you've skipped over such a lot there. So
I
I'm going
know.
to take you back,
Go for it.
because what you're saying is that you were diagnosed in 2015,
Yep.
correct?
Yep.
Then you were told, I mean, that in itself is such a huge thing to come to terms
Correct.
with, that you've got
Yep.
something in your brain. The terror would have
Mm-hmm.
been very real for you at that point. But
Yeah.
also, you're then told that you need MRIs every 3 months,
Mm-hmm.
and they can't do anything about it. And at this point, you don't know whether your tumor is cancerous or benign,
Yes, exactly.
what grade of tumor it is. And from my research, the cancerous people that have brain cancer is a very low survival rate.
Correct.
So I want to ask you, because I would imagine that over that period of time, not only did you have all of that to come to terms with, the terror that you were feeling, the having to go through an MRI scan and wondering what you're going to see when you have another MRI
Mm.
scan.
Mm.
How do you deal with something like that? What were the skills that you learn over that period of time to mentally cope?
Yeah, it was horrible. Not to mention, I was also dizzy 24/7 throughout that as well, which is horrible in itself. Um, I meditated a lot. It will sound really depressing, but I loved going to sleep at night because I forgot about the whole situation while I was asleep. Um, and I did a lot of things to distract myself. I think that's when my entrepreneurialism peaked, because if I had lots of side projects going on, it distracted me from, yeah, like, I may have a severely malignant tumor in the back of my head. And I always went into my MRIs with positivity, but it was always still there. It was every time I got results, it's like, yeah, it's still there, it's still there. And I'm like, oh, like, I was just, I'm not super religious or anything. I wasn't praying, but I was like, just thinking, please go away. Just don't be there this time. But yeah, it was still there. And I had to maintain a normal life and a career and social life and relationships for that entire time, and just, put on a brave face and smile and be happy. But like, I knew that, yeah, there's a potentially death ball in the back of my brain. And yeah, it was a pretty hard time. But again, I'm very lucky that I'm a positive bloke, and I don't know why, I just am. Um, so yeah, I feel that helped me push through those. It was a hectic time. It was like 7 years of knowing that, but not knowing anything.
Mm, mm,
It's tough. Um, but yeah, loads and loads of meditation. I still meditate to this day, just to bring my anxiety and my, I guess, fight or flight just down to kind of like manageable levels. Because yeah, I'm a pretty anxious guy as it is without that news. So
mm. And despite the dizziness, you were able to continue with what you were doing as a career through that period?
yeah, it was, from looking at me, you wouldn't have known, but in my head, like, I feel like I'd been just smacked with a baseball bat, and I was just a bit off all day long. It was horrible. And it was very ironic that my entire job was to show people how to move and feel good and have mobility. And yeah, I was just literally there, just in my head, dizzy, 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 dizzy all day. But I was the way I looked at it, I was still alive and I was still going. And if the way I rationalized it in my head, if it was super serious, it probably would have got me by that stage. Like, it was a 7 year period. Like, in my head, I'm like, it can't be that gnarly or bad or nasty, to use that first surgeon's word. Because if it was, I probably wouldn't still be around, or my symptoms would be far, far, far more severe. And I think that's why I went into each MRI with a positive hope that it might be gone. My symptoms aren't worsening, they're stable. But yeah, it never went away fully. It's still, some of it's still in there. So yeah, even to this day.
You say you're not a super religious guy, but I can tell you that if that had happened to me, I'd have been praying for it to go every time also, and probably trying every natural supplement or
Yeah,
herb
I
thing.
definitely dove down those rabbit holes of diet for brain tumors, this, that, and all these natural remedies. I went down those, and then that kind of helped me develop an anxiety disorder. So I went and talked to a psychologist. She's basically like, look, stop Doctor Googling everything. Um, just trust in your surgeon and your medical team to do what's right for you. So yeah, I went down that rabbit hole. Trust me.
So when you went and had the MRI, they said to you, okay, you've got to go in and you've got to have brain surgery. And
Mhm,
there were a couple of, it was a very significant time for all of us because we were about to go into the COVID lockdowns.
mhm.
And, I wonder whether, when I've watched your story about this, not only is that a huge, another terror, is I'm going to go in with somebody that can move and my eyes work and, and I don't know how I'm going to come out of that. Um, the timing was pretty significant, wasn't it?
Yeah. My
Perspective.
surgery was 3 days before COVID went boom in Australia. Um, I was in my hospital bed, and my mum told me that my current workplace at the time, which was a huge commercial gym company, had closed. And in my head, I'm like, there's no way on earth that company would ever close its doors. And she's like, no, 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 Joel, it's not just your gym, it is everything. The only things open are like, hospital stuff like this that are essential services. I could not believe it. And the impact it had on my family, the COVID, I was in hospital for 5 weeks. My parents, who live 2 hours drive away, would have to drive up, and I was only allowed one visitor at a time because of COVID. So my mum would come in, we'd talk for an hour, while my dad was waiting in the car. They'd then swap. My dad would come in, I would regurgitate the exact same things I told her for another hour. While my mum was waiting in the car, they'd both go get back in the car and drive home. They did this every single day. Like, I felt so bad for him, but it was the best time of my day because I was in bed 24 hours a day, just sitting there, couldn't walk, couldn't swallow, couldn't see. It's horrible. But that 2 hours with my parents, that was so good. Just to like catch up on the chaos that was going on in the world, and just for them to kind of reassure me that I will get better. And at the time, I'm like, I felt so helpless. I couldn't do a thing. I couldn't shower, couldn't brush my own teeth. But like, I'm sitting here today having a chat with you online. So you can progress and you can come a long way for sure.
Um, in going into the operation, when they said, okay, this is it, we're pulling the trigger, you've got to go in.
Mhm.
After that long period of time, was there also like a sense of relief as to,
For
okay,
sure. It was funny, the morning of the surgery, I got in my car to drive to the hospital, and, like, the worst omen, I had a flat tire. I'm like, "Oh my goodness, here we go." So I had to, with my partner at the time, we jumped in an Uber, got to the hospital, sitting there, waiting for them to call my name to come in, and I'm like, I remember, like, running down the stairs and to go to the bathroom. I'm like, "That's probably the last time I could run down the stairs ever." Like, and I was, like, quite calm, and my family's like, "You're pretty chill." I'm like, "Look, Charlie Tio's the best in the world. All I've gotta do is trust him. I don't have to do a thing, I just gotta lay there." So I just threw complete trust and responsibility onto Charlie and his team, and what could I do? The only fear I had was something going wrong and, like, potentially being paraplegic or something, and him hitting the wrong nerve or whatever, and my leg's not working. So that was a fear, but I just put complete trust in him just to let him do his thing, and I was pretty mellow, going in there, and I was asleep the whole time. So yeah,
Mm.
it did take 6 hours though. That was pretty gnarly. Yeah.
Yeah. It did with my friend also. It was about a
Mm,
6 hour operation.
wow.
I'm curious as to when you come out of an operation like that, when you're told as you're going in, that this is going to affect so many different um, actions that you
Hmm.
have. What's your thoughts as you come out of that as the operation? Like, did you kind of mentally think, oh, I'm just going to check everything, or I'm going to see if I can.
100, yeah, so the first thing I did was wiggle my toes just to make sure I wasn't paraplegic. I'm like, yes, my legs, my toes work. And then like the most like head splitting migraine you can ever think of. Like I felt like I've been smacked with a bat. It hurt so much. And I was on like every painkiller you could think of. Um, and like I couldn't see, everything was double vision, but I could hear my parents, I could hear my housemate, they were there. And it was really, really, really satisfying. But not being able to eat, like I was starving, and I could hear other, I guess, patients in the room I was in. They were having their meals and I was eating, and I'm like, oh, I just want to eat your food, but I couldn't eat. So yeah, it was a combination of yay, my toes work, yay, I'm alive, but also like, oh, I've got the worst headache. I cannot see. I cannot eat. Everything's dark, and I just feel really, really uncomfortable. But I was stoked to be alive. Yeah,
Mm,
it was weird. It was very bittersweet.
it's a good job your brain defaults to the
Ve-
positive. Yeah, I
Correct.
know, because my friend, he sent me a photo when he had, here I am in the hospital bed and I'm fine and I got through it and everything. And I thought, oh, you look really well. What have they got you on? And he said, oh, they've there's no antibiotics or anything. They just got me on these steroids. And I thought,
Yes.
that's okay, but I didn't realize how powerful those steroids are. I mean, they basically ate through all of his muscle, and
Yep.
so
I
it,
have a very interesting, I guess, anecdote for that. I lost 16 kilos in 2 weeks.
mm,
Like everything, sorry to get nerdy, but everything atrophied. All my muscle just withered away. Um, as a personal trainer, that's annoying. But yeah, like my quads are now as skinny as my arms. Like everything just went away. And yeah, I can definitely resonate with your mate, who is also a fit guy. And yeah, it's not a nice feeling. And yeah, like if you can't eat and you can't stand up, your muscles have no reason to be there, sadly. So
mm.
there's that.
And not only that, but I think also the mental side effects of what those steroids do to you,
Oh yeah. You're sleepy, you're moody, you're irritable, you get nausea. Like you need them, but the side effects are horrible. Like you just go on this emotional roller coaster, you get snappy. Um, and then yeah, you start thinking, oh, what's this going to do to me long term? What's happening to my gut bacteria moving forward? Yeah, it's a good thing that I had them because I obviously needed them, but they're also super annoying with the side effects and the future side effects.
Mm. And then, as you say, you're now in this period where you've come out of the op, you've got over that side of it. And, for most people, when they have an operation, it's like, okay, I've had the operation, now I'm going to get better, and then I'm
Hmm.
going to take off with my life again. But of course, that's not what happens, is it? With any brain operation, uh, well, for you, it was very evident. You already knew that that wasn't going to happen going into it. We didn't, that wasn't the experience,
Mm.
because everything happened so quickly. But you're now, how long are you in hospital for over this period of time?
Yeah, so I was in hospital for 5 weeks. So I got really close with the nurses and everyone that worked there. Um, and yeah, the worst thing is the fear of the unknown. Like I was lucky enough to know what was going to get affected, but I didn't know if it was ever going to get in better or improve. Um, and I must have been the biggest annoying nag. Like I kept asking my surgeon and the nurses, "Am I going to get better? Is there someone else that got better but was similar to me?" Yada yada. And I just yearned for social proof of someone who was severely affected like I was and actually got their way back to even just walking. Like there was this one other patient there and he walked straight away. I was so envious of him. I'm like, good on you. But man, I wish I could do that. Like he was up walking around, yada yada yada. And I'm just like in bed, having to lift my legs with my hands just to get myself comfortable. it was hectic. And I guess the one thing I did learn from that is no two recovery journeys will ever be the same. Even if you have the exact same operation with the exact same tumor in the exact same area, you're using a scalpel to cut into millimeters of brain tissue and neurons that affect every part of your body. One tiny millimeter right affects one thing, and one tiny millimeter left affects another. And yeah, you don't know how your story is going to unfold. And yes, I've got severely debilitating, life-changing deficits, but it could be way, way, way worse. And I always put things into perspective. Someone is worse than me, and it's horrible, and someone's worse than them. And yeah, when I put things into perspective like that, that's how I get on with my day. I'm like, it could be a lot worse,
Mm.
sadly.
I think some of the emotions that kind of came up around this, with the situation that my friend was in was, anger over having
Mhm,
this happen. It's like this nagging feeling of like, why did it happen? Because
mhm,
I was healthy and I was fit and I did everything
mhm.
right. Like, why me? And then, like you say, looking at other people that are around and saying, well, how come they're all right? And,
Mhm,
look at him, he doesn't live a healthy life. And how come he's walking around?
correct.
Okay. And, it's so easy, isn't it, to kind of fall into that negative mindset
Mhm.
where suddenly you're down on a spiral because, I think everybody would understand this. Our emotions are everything, they're things
Yeah, for sure.
that enable us
And
to fight it out.
I completely agree with you. I think the most unspoken of positive thing for me is, yeah, just that my brain chemicals just default to positive. Like, I took everything in my stride. I could have easily been angry, upset, why me? To use an analogy like Eeyore out of Winnie the Pooh, like, "Oh, everything's mopey." But for some reason, I don't know why, but I'm so happy, I just default to positive, and I look at the what could happen and the growth mindset. And yeah, and I don't judge, like, I'm just a very lucky person that positively reinforces I can get better. But yeah, there's thousands and millions of brain surgery recovery people that default to negative, and it's a bloody tough time, excuse my French. And um, it's kind of this purgatory between, like, yes, you're alive, awesome, but you're so debilitated and different to how you used to be. It's kind of like it's nearly annoying. And yeah, I can resonate with your friend and other people who that gets, them upset and angry, because yeah, I've definitely been there, but I've also for some reason just positively dragged myself out of that area as well. So I don't know why, but yeah, just my brain chemicals just default to positive, which is
Mm.
awesome. And I keep saying brain chemicals, and it's a bit nerdy, but yeah, it's a chemical reaction in your brain to either make you positive or negative. So yeah, thank goodness mine just defaults to positive.
Mm. I know you say, oh, you're not really a woo-woo guy, sort of as we were beginning the interview,
Yeah.
but I've spoken to a few people now that have had brain trauma. There was one of my subscribers, his wife had gone through
Oh
it.
wow.
And then I also reached out to another lady who was a stunt woman. And I don't know whether you've
Oh
ever come across her story, but she had a massive meningioma and
wow.
was found very much by accident because she had a
Mhm,
crash. And
mhm.
after the crash, she was just very dizzy. So eventually they gave her the
Yeah.
MRI, you know,
Wow.
found this big meningioma. And what's interesting about all the stories where I've kind of dug into them or when I've watched YouTube videos is that the timing is quite significant when this happens. I mean, for you, uh, really that 5-year period and then you having to have the operation in 2020 from a work perspective was the right time, wasn't it? Because of
Mm,
the lockdowns,
yeah,
it took a lot
100%.
from you for that reason. Do you
Mm.
meditate that much?
Yeah, I've said 1,000 times, like, for the worst thing to ever happen, it happened at the most incredibly perfect time, because I'd gotten to a stage in my career where I was quite hands off, and I was management, strategy, timetables, rosters. I was very much in the background doing admin stuff. So to lose my mobility and functionality physically, but as you said, do it at a time where every gym had shut down anyway, and the fact that I was in a heavily admin-based role of management, yeah, the most horrible thing to ever happen to me happened at the most perfect time.
Mm.
So
Yeah, that's very similar to when I've been talking to people and when they're through it, of course. When you're
yeah,
going through it, it never feels like a perfect time when you're in
no.
it. But
I
yeah.
I think if someone's had brain cancer and is still around to talk about it, the planets have aligned for it to happen perfectly. And yeah, a lot of the time you'll notice there's a big. I talk to brain tumor survivors every day, and yeah, there's this uncanny timeline of just perfect timing. Even though it's a horrible thing to happen, it just happens at the right time. And the woman you're alluding to, the stunt person, like yeah, like imagine if she was a graphic designer and she didn't go get a she wasn't dizzy and didn't go get an MRI, she wouldn't have known. So yeah, little things like this happen for a reason, and yeah, those people that are still around to tell their story, I feel there's been a lot of luck in the pretense to their story as well, and for me, definitely.
Mm. So those period of months after your, operation, which really was recovering, you were unable to work, you were having to learn about your body as a
Hmm.
body. And I would imagine you were also having to get to know yourself in
Hmm.
a way that you hadn't got to know yourself before. Can you share a little bit about what your memories are of that?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It was challenging. Like I spent 5 weeks in hospital and then another 5 weeks in rehab, and I was there full time, all day long, with 90-year-old stroke victims. Like they're all going to me, "Oh, what sports team do you play for? Are you a sports celebrity?" And I'm like, "No, I just had a brain tumor." So it's quite cool. Like I made friends with a lot of them, but yeah, it was also pretty dark. Like at night, I'm trying to sleep, and people down the hall are in pain and are screaming, and there's just a lot of just negativity around because everyone's just had a stroke. Their bodies aren't working. They can't talk. They're slurring. They can't eat. They have seizures. It was pretty gnarly. But I just tried to stay in my lane, and my rule was to go to rehab early, like be the first one there, and to be the last one to leave,
Mm.
even if it was just cycling on a bike. And I did what's the other one called OT? It's basically a therapy that I've forgotten the name of it at the moment, but you go there and you learn how to do little day-to-day things and work on your fine motor skills. Like I was really diligent at that. Like I never ever skipped a session. I just said to myself, I go, look, you're here to get better, work hard. And I think having the mentality of an athlete and a PT really, really, really helped with that because loads of other guys that I'll be like, where's Johnny? And I'll be like, oh, he's too tired. He didn't come. He wanted to stay in bed and sleep. I was like, I can't be that guy. I've got to get better. I want to get better for my family. I want to get better for me. I've got to go back to work eventually. Um, so yeah, if I wasn't a PT and had that mental drive, who knows how well I would have recovered if at all. So yeah, I had a good rehab team and they were very, very, very helpful. And being young, not only helped from a physical rehab perspective, but connecting with all the other therapists, which were my age, which was quite cool. And I think they liked working with me because I wasn't a 90-year-old stroke victim. I was someone where they could see improvements in day after day after day, and they were getting excited by that as well. And I went in, I got pushed in a hospital bed because I couldn't stand up, and I walked out of there on my own 2 feet, which is really quite a symbolic day for me after 10 weeks, 3 months of which I couldn't eat or walk or
Mm.
see. So yeah, I walked out of there being able to eat, being able to walk, and being able to see, which is great. Big
What,
milestone.
what what was that first meal like?
It's funny. So even to this day, I've got to be really, really slow and thoughtful and mindful with every swallow. Like it takes me way longer to eat my meal than anyone else. I remember having Mexican for the first time. That was my first meal, sort of, without all the other meals I used to kind of train myself to eat. It was so satisfying, Catherine. Like I loved every single little bit of it. It was basically like a deconstructed burrito. Like I didn't have the bread, but yeah, like in rehab, you get taught to swallow foods. Bananas are quite easy, and pasta. They use these slipperier foods to help you swallow. But yeah, the first real meal was Mexican and Toblerone. Like I'm a massive chocolate fiend, and yeah, I definitely loved my first Toblerone back. And Now, nearly 5 years later, I can eat anything. Some foods are still very, very challenging. But yeah, I've got to be very mindful. I can't talk when I'm eating. I can't eat and then drink at the same time because I need to make sure the food's down before I start to try drink any liquid. And yeah, things like shots and sculling drinks, no longer can I do that because my throat still doesn't know how to take on liquid as fast. And like every day I still choke on my own saliva. Like every office I go into, I need to warn them, look, I'm going to cough a lot because I choke on my saliva. I promise you I'm not sick. I'm not going to spread any germs. It's literally just my throat still doesn't know how to swallow saliva 100% independently, still 5 years later.
Yeah, amazing. Um, I want to pivot a little bit because
Go for it.
over the period of time when you're going through all of this, you're learning to walk, eat, and move in a different way,
Hmm.
learning to cope with probably a massive amount of anxiety that you're going through.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
learning about yourself as a different person. You've got people that are close to you around you
Hmm.
are probably struggling, but
Yeah, they're
I'm
faking it. They're faking the brave face, but yeah, they're
that's right. Yeah, they're
in the
sort of
background. They're
yeah,
worried for
they're
sure.
trying to be positive, trying
Yeah.
to obviously support you in that journey. Did you, what were the things that assisted you at the time? But I'm also curious as to now, as you look back on it, how it perhaps changed the people around you. What if there's
Yeah,
anything?
it's funny that you end on that because not only did I have the brain surgery to recover from, my mum at the same time had 3 brain aneurysms. So she had to go get that sorted out. A week later, my dad's business burnt down. The next day, my nan died. A week later, my partner at the time left me. So it's all happening. So think of the worst case scenario you could ever think of, right? But my family was so strong. My support network, the boys, were really strong. They come and visit me. Even when I'm in hospital wearing like a pirate mask because I couldn't see out of one eye, they were really, really supportive. The best thing they ever did, and the best thing that my now fiance does, they just treated me normal. They weren't dilly dallying. They weren't using that condescending voice. They were just, it was just normal, cracking normal jokes, treating me normally how they always would, talking about sport, talking about this, just treating me normal. Cause yeah, it was a gnarly, gnarly, gnarly time. And like everything that could go wrong did go wrong. But, we got through it. And, I now have an amazing relationship with an amazing fiance who treats me normal, who supports me massively with changing nappies, cooking dinner, all these little things that are still challenging for me because of my left hand still a bit uncoordinated. But yeah, like to go through what I did to come out now and have the life I do, I would do it. I would do it again exactly the same. And I always say it sounds funny, but I'm glad I got a brain tumor because I would absolutely hate for my family or friends to get it. Like I'm glad it was me. So yeah, like I just got through a round of it's not my family. I've got it. I can deal with it. And I guess that's how I got through the last 4 years. And yeah, I've
Mm,
just had a really good support network. A very, very lucky man. Because I could
mm,
have been living in Nepal and not have my family with me.
mm. Um, the once you've had a brain tumor, you've had it removed. I think anyone that's been through cancer or something would probably relate to this, but there's always a risk of, it
Mm.
coming back. You have to have
Mhm.
regular MRI scans. You have
Yeah.
to deal with this fact that, this operation that you had and the fiddling around with your brain has changed you. And that's a lot to cope with, I
Yeah.
think. Those thoughts, which probably are darkest at night, are
Hmm.
quite difficult to navigate. What did you go through? I mean, like, how did you cope with the anxiety?
Yeah. So I remember it would have been 3 days after surgery. My family actually told me they didn't get all of it. So that was like a horrible feeling. So there's still 20% in there. Um, Charlie's like, look, we're going to do annual MRIs just to keep an eye on it. He goes, look, now that we've cut in and we've biopsied, we know it's not an aggressive, fast-growing tumor. It's what's called a ganglioglioma. It's a bit more manageable, and that's why I didn't grow so quickly over that 7-year gap hiatus that we had. But yeah, it was just like those MRIs. I was like trying to be positive, but it was quite scary because yeah, you're right. As you alluded to with cancer survivors, the chance of it growing back or becoming metastatic again or doing more damage after your life's already been altered massively, like it does grow in your mind. And I remember I got some really good MRI results a few years in a row. So Charlie goes to me, he goes, "Look, mate, don't come back for 2 years." I'm like, amazing. That's the best thing to ever hear from your brain surgeon. And then my last MRI, which was in May, I actually went to Charlie's house for him to look at my scans. And he goes, "Look, mate, this looks bloody awesome. It's the best it's ever looked. The 20% that's remaining no longer has an edema next to it, and the edema is like
Mm.
the sac that tumors like to use to keep themselves healthy." And he goes, "Look, your edema's pretty much gone, which means this guy's probably on his way out, which is bloody great news." So I'll have another MRI next, mate, just to see what's going on. And it's I always say from a horrible hand of cards, it's the best scenario. Like I'm here, I'm healthy. It's not growing back. It could be far, far worse.
Mm. When you look back at what happened to you, do you ever sort of think, oh, I wish that hadn't happened? Or do you kind of like other things that you sort of think about? You think, well, um, there's
Yeah,
things
no,
that
as
it,
I just alluded to before, I'm like, thank God it's me and not my family or loved ones. Look, yes, I'd love for it not to have happened. Like I was doing so well in my career. I had weekend health retreats popping off. I was looking forward to doing things athletically in my personal life. But again, it is what it is. Every single person, their life isn't linear. It's a roller coaster. We all have things. We have divorce. We lose our jobs. We have financial crisis. Mine just happened to be a physical health scare. Um, if it wasn't that, maybe I would have been single for my whole life and not found the love of my life, which I have now. So it kind of, without sounding dismissive, it is what it is, and this was my chapter to deal with, because we all have good and bad chapters throughout our life, no matter what they are.
yeah, absolutely. And what is it that you do now? Are you still in as a personal trainer?
Yeah, so I'm still a PT. I am now in like a projects team about to launch a huge, gigantic aquatic center in Sydney, and my role is to design the gym, get the equipment, design the mirrors, the walls, the floor, hire the staff, make the rosters, make the timetable, put different classes on. So it's my incredible dream job, but it helps deal with the fact that I'm no longer physically able to go and put you through a PT session like I used to. Um, if I did PT still, I would charge probably a quarter of the price, because I don't have the functionality or the mobility to show you how to correctly do a lunge or do a burpee or run up and down stairs. So yeah, I'm blessed that I now have my dream job in a realm where it's all admin, it's all strategy, it's all sitting at a laptop, which
Mm.
is great. Great timing.
One of the most debilitating symptoms I think that I noticed, from watching just video after video after video of people that have been through this was fatigue. There seems
Hmm.
to be an issue where you have a brain trauma that you can't function for as many hours as you used to be able to function. But
Correct.
when I talk to my friend, he describes the fatigue very much like a mental fatigue and not a physical
Yeah.
fatigue. Because as
Yeah.
well,
Correct.
like you, he's connected to his body, so he knows he hasn't done enough to tire his body out,
Yeah.
but there's this problem with how he's thinking. um is that always going to be there? Is that something that you found yourself has kind
Well, yeah, for me, like I always underpin me sharing my insights. My story might be different than everyone else's. We all recover at different rates, but I still struggle with fatigue, and I'm the biggest hypocrite sometimes. I'll go to the gym and train 5 days a week, and then I'll be on the couch for 2 weeks, and it's very stop, start, 2 steps forward, 2 steps back. So my chiro, he's like, "Look, Joel, let's just try and train twice a week and do that over time and build yourself back up. Um, it's a very annoying fatigue. Not only is the fatigue really debilitating, like you can't do a thing, but when you're feeling good, you think you're back and you're normal again, and you're like, sweet, I'm off to the gym. And then it comes back and you're like, oh, not only is it annoying, but it physically sets you back another 2 weeks, and then yeah, you're on the couch, you have to start again. Yeah, it's frustrating. Yeah, my GP at rehab, she's like, look, you'll walk to the fridge to get food and you'll be tired. Like it's like they've removed your batteries. Like we've had massive brain trauma. Someone's cut in with a scalpel, removed tissue, and your brain is working overdrive just to get you throughout the day. When you go rock climbing or go for a run or have a massive workout in the gym, or you're stressed from your job, that really melts your batteries, and your battery's already pretty dodgy as it is. So yeah, fatigue's huge. And I don't know if mine will go away. I don't know if your friends will go away. I don't know if other people's will go away. I know people who are back fit, healthy, run marathons and stuff after brain surgery. So we're all different. All you can do is hope for the best and plan and deal with the day-to-day fatigue around doing small little increments. Instead of going for a 45-minute workout, do a 15-minute workout. Really focus on recovery, and I always book in rest days. Um, I'm lucky that I'm obsessed with soccer, so each Sunday or Monday or whenever my team plays, I'll sit down and just watch that for an hour and a half, and that's my time to take notches down and really relax and recover. So yeah, I did a recent video on my YouTube channel about fatigue, and it's going to be different for everyone, but you've got to be smart around all the things I just shared and little small bits of exercise or movement. And yeah, just scheduling rest. Because if you don't, you will constantly just wear yourself out, and you're going around in a vicious cycle. And trust me, I've done it for 4 years. It's horrible.
Hmm. Um, I'm a little bit of a health nut. I'm a bit obsessive about, diet and
Yep.
do biohacking things and take a ton of herbs and think I'm going to live forever and tell everybody.
I love it. You will manifest it.
Those annoying things that when you meet a healthy person, they can't help but divulge all of this stuff with some revelation at the end of it. But I am sort of curious as to, having come this far down the line, what were the things that did you find any supplements or any diet thing, or, sort of what you were taking that you think, yeah, okay, actually that really worked or that really
Yeah.
helped?
Yeah, so it's funny you mentioned that, right? Like I'm a personal trainer and a brain tumor survivor. I take no medications, no supplements, no anything. And in the past, I've definitely gone down the taking chlorophyll, taking this, taking guarana avenues. But I feel at the moment, the thing that makes me feel good is what I do, and that's eating single ingredient foods. So what that means is like whole foods, like meats, berries, fruits, vegetables. If it's a single ingredient and it makes me feel good, I'll eat it. Um, Dealing with daily fatigue, my foods are very important. And don't get me wrong, I'll smash Toblerone, I'll have a pizza, but my goodness, am I fatigued? So I kind of look at things around, all right, I eat X. If X makes me feel energized and good and not tired, I'll continue to eat it. Um, but yeah, I'll still have chocolate, and I'm human. I'll still eat pizza. I'll still have wine with my fiance. Like, but yeah, for me, single ingredient foods keep me energized and not fatigued. And yeah, I don't take supplements, and I'm not against them. I don't need to at the moment. They don't make me feel better, so I just focus on the things that do. And yeah, single ingredient foods for me is the way to go. Um,
Mm.
and and eating single ingredients foods pretty much eliminates a lot of junk anyway. And yeah, I do find that it is the junk that makes me feel low energy and low mood. And my little son, he's right there and he's waving at me. So excuse the interruption. Hilton, go see mum. Sorry about that.
Yeah, nice name, by the way, for
No,
your
it's cute.
And congratulations, because obviously
Thank
you're in a
you.
very happy situation now.
Yeah.
And that's given you a chance to do, because you were saying to me, and this so comes across about you, Joel, like when you watch your videos and everything, there is an underlying passion to help people. And it's such a beautiful energy that kind of radiates, you know, when
Oh,
anybody
yeah.
talks to you or when we listen to you. So I want to kind of, you know, give your YouTube channel a little bit of a plug and
Oh, thank
see if
you.
we can get more people to go along to it, because I can honestly say that, you know, the help, the need to hear from people that have been through something similar when
Hmm.
traumatic thing that happens is important. But I also
Hmm.
think that it's really nice to hear from someone that's been through something so
100%.
traumatic, like how you actually manage that in your life. And I think that that's probably where you sort of shine through, because managing the anxiety, managing something, a big trauma in your life, learning new skills, mental skills from that, I would
Mhm.
imagine have been quite a big part of your journey.
Yeah, you sum that up perfectly. So the three reasons I like, it's a pretty taboo and weird topic to talk about, brain tumors, but you nailed it. Like the reason I do it is it's all I craved when I was in hospital. I just wanted to hear that social proof of someone else improving and uplifting people and showing them they can improve. They're not alone. The second thing is, and you're right, talking to someone else who's been through it, it's really, really satisfying. Like I could talk to yourself, you're a lovely person. I could talk to my fiance, my parents, but they don't know what it's like really. They can only sympathize, they can't empathize. And so when I'm talking with other people on YouTube in my comments, yeah, it fills my cup. Like we're both vibing off each other because we get it. Sadly, if you haven't had brain surgery, you will never get it. And yeah, the third reason is I just want to connect the community of brain tumor warriors all together with easily digestible insights from my story. Like I'm in so many Facebook forums, Instagram groups, and everyone's everywhere. I just want people to come together and like I feel someone in a Facebook group is asking the same question as someone over on an Instagram forum, and I'm like, if I can bring it together, I use those people's questions for the topics of my videos. Um, so if people do tune into my YouTube page, they will notice I will start the video with, "Hey guys, this week's topic is brain surgery and fatigue. Thanks to Mikey from the comments on my last video for coming up with a topic." And like, I want to talk to these people like warriors, not just talk to the camera and me trying to use buzzwords to try and get more clicks and views. I genuinely want to resonate with the other warrior at the other end of the video. So I've even gone through and changed all the names of my videos so people can navigate it a bit more quickly. Like if they want to go and look around a video for dizziness, they go to the videos about dizziness. Instead of me using a clickbait name to try and get views, I want to make my YouTube page a resource for people who are going through a very hectic and gnarly and scary and horrible, horrible time. And yeah, just show them they're not alone and they have the potential to improve. They can stay positive and put effort into their rehab and yeah, just try and err on the positive side of the whole situation. So yeah, thanks for mentioning my YouTube channel. And I'm not here to become, Beyonce or the world's most famous YouTuber. I'm gonna make about 100 videos and leave my YouTube page just there as a resource for anyone who's having brain surgery today, last week, in a year, in 10 years. It'll always be there and it's categorized and it's easy to look through. And not only do I talk to other warriors, I talk to their mums, their dads, their carers. They're freaking out. They don't know what to do. Their kid, their son, their loved one is going through a hectic time and they don't know how to communicate it either. So these parents and carers are watching my videos and it's making a bit more sense for them. So that's all it's there for. It's a tool, it's a resource. I'm not doing it to, yeah, again, as I said, become Oprah or Beyonce on YouTube. So
Hmm.
yeah. And
Yeah.
I'm in a situation where I've got a couple of minutes every day to make a video. I have the positive mindset to want to even do it to begin with. A lot of people reach out to me, they're like, "Oh, thanks for your videos." There's no way I'm in the mindset to even bother to do that type of thing. So they're stoked I'm representing them. So yeah, it's quite cool. And I just like getting in the comments and chatting to everyone.
Yeah, it's really important, Joel. I mean, as I said, your videos were some of the first that I came across. So the algorithm is working for you
Excellent.
now. But yeah, definitely resonate with what you said about, the people around that kind of reach out and say, please help, because
Mhm,
I don't know what to do and I don't know
mhm,
what to say. I don't know
yeah,
whether it's best just to say nothing, to stay quiet, to say
mhm,
something, to um, you know, and the last thing you want to do with someone that you care about that's going through this is to bring your own emotional grief about it onto
yeah,
their
exactly.
shoulders as well. So all the time you're sort of holding back that this is okay, this is all right, just
Yeah.
whatever I can do to help. It's a very, very difficult time to navigate from someone, as you say, warriors, great term for it, someone that is having to go through a life-changing, dramatic situation like
Mhm,
that. And your own emotions that you collect around it. So I would say that as much as it's been a learning curve for, my friend who's going through it, it's definitely been a learning curve for me, and,
yeah.
having my own emotions as well. I would
Yeah.
imagine that you've had similar
Yeah,
experience.
it's equally as challenging, and yeah, I don't envy the side of the carer, because yeah, you've got to cope as well, and you're right. You don't want to emulate your stuff onto the warrior because they're already going through enough. So yeah, it's very hard. And I don't envy that perspective. And yeah, my family, my loved ones, they were very good at putting on a brave face and giving good advice and just being supportive and lovely. But yeah, it was I don't envy that situation at all. It's very challenging, and as you know,
Yeah, absolutely. So I would encourage everybody, and your YouTube videos are great, by the way. They
thank you.
look great. They come
They
across.
will get better. They're not glossy. They're not sexy. They're not overly edited or produced. My goal is to do them in one take because I want it to be a conversation with another brain tumor warrior. So my rule is one take. If I stuff up, like you'll notice in some videos, I completely lose track of my thoughts. I don't know what to say, and I'm like, I've got a brain tumor. Just get on with it. So yeah, all my videos are just one take, and they will get better. I'll try and get a better camera. I'll make it a, but yeah, I've got a list of about 80 different videos I'm going to make, um, as well as when my followers ask me for a topic, I'll make those videos as well. So yeah, there's going to be hundreds of videos there for people to use as a resource whenever they need to.
Yeah, that's great. And that they're so short. It's one of those things where you can just sort of quickly look at them and quickly have it
Yes.
as a reference, which is fantastic. I know
Yeah.
that my subscribers would definitely like me to do shorter videos
Ha,
and not talk so much, which I tend to do. But thanks so much for coming on and doing an interview with
my
me.
pleasure. Oh,
Um,
thanks for allowing me a platform to help, and thanks for connecting me and your friend as well. I hope they've gotten some I guess insights and support out of it as well. So yeah, thank you very much, and I'll talk to you soon.
yeah, it's a journey, I can tell you.
Absolutely, and all the best to you. Take care.
Yeah, thanks, Joel. Thank
My
you.
pleasure.